Welcome to English X on ICRT, brought to you by Mandarin X and Vine Education Company. English X is where managers learn to discuss international business topics in English and to start thinking more like a boss.
欢迎收听 ICRT English X， 每周四早上由中文课和葡萄藤国际语言训练中心特别企划，让您掌握全球商业趋势。
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to English X. And today we have something very, very special for you. We have a special guest, Kurt Penney. Kurt Penney is a math teacher from Canada here in Taiwan. He's been living here for the past, how long?
That's classified.
Okay, so by day, he is a math teacher. But by night, he is a stand-up comic. So Kurt, you're a comedian. I got a joke for you.
Okay.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cows go.
Cows go who?
No. Cows go moo. You get that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually in Taiwan, it's not moo. Do you know what it is in Taiwan? Moo, no. Mo. They're mo. So Taiwanese people, when you're speaking Chinese, cows don't say moo. They say mo. Mo.
Mo.
So many Taiwanese people, when they hear this knock-knock joke, cows go moo, they don't understand because it just doesn't translate, right?
Yeah.
From one language to another. What do dogs say in English?
Woof woof.
What do they say in Chinese? Wan wan. They say wan wan.
Wan wan.
How about ducks in English?
Quack quack.
And in Chinese?
I don't know.
Gua gua. Gua gua. Like shadi gua gua. Sheep in English?
Ba.
And in Chinese? Mie mie. So all of a sudden what we're doing here is anytime you have a joke that relies on animal sounds, the joke will fall flat. Because, you know, Chinese speakers and English speakers, it won't translate, right? It just doesn't work. How does that affect your humor when you're doing stand-up and some things work in one language, but you can't translate the joke?
Well, that's why I usually have a tough time at these open mics, because I find there's always three types of people in the crowd. There's those that don't want to hear English, those that don't want to hear Chinese, and those that don't want to hear me.
Okay, those are the three types, right?
The three audiences in the audience.
Today what we're going to do is we're going to help our English learning audience understand humor in English. My name is Russ, and welcome to English X. Hashtag like a boss. Each week we talk to real-world bosses to find out their secrets for success.
现在到了每周 English X 访问时间。
All right, so Kurt, what is a stand-up comic?
Well, stand-up comic is just a lonely, insecure person that's looking for that group hug from a room full of strangers. That's a quote from a movie.
So it basically means like you go to like a place, like a bar, or where do you go?
Well, I work with Jaimes Star. It's a nice little venue. It's a bar-like place. But yeah, most stand-up comedies or shows are held at bars. People come on in. They sit in the audience, and the comedian goes on stage. Usually without any props, they just stand by themselves and then talk to the audience. They have a conversation with the audience, or the audience the audience responds by laughing, and the stand-up comedian just talks.
So is it just go listen to someone make jokes?
I would say I think for the most part that's a pretty safe assessment of it.
But most of the time, I mean, each comedian's different. They have like a theme or something, or a style, or
shtick.
They have a shtick.
They have a shtick. Yeah.
So every comedian has their own shtick.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this in Taiwan?
Well, I first came to Taiwan in 1997, and been around 2006. I started doing. There was nobody doing comedy back then. I was just this crazy foreign guy. They had like a poetry night, and I said, "Hey, these people had a poetry night or whatever," and I said, "Hey, can I get up and try some jokes?" And they said, "Yeah," and it worked out. And
so poetry night is someone goes up on stage and reads their poems.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you're kind of doing that, except your poems are funny.
In a way, I do have some funny poems per se, but yeah.
And you're doing this in English to Taiwanese audience or in English to foreign audience?
Well, it's mostly to foreigners, but Taiwanese are more over the years have become more have become to embrace the comedy world more and more. But yeah, most of the audience, these places for us foreigners who are doing jokes or telling poetry or singing, they're at bars that are quote unquote foreign bars.
Yeah. Okay. But my situation is when I'm in classes with students, sometimes I make a joke, but they don't understand. Why is it so hard to do comedy in Taiwan?
Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Well, I mean, for one thing, like the audience won't laugh if they don't know what you're talking about. So
like the knock joke earlier, I guaranteed most of our audience did not laugh. Why did I say moo?
You know, I have something similar because I got this so joke. I do a so joke, and
like. What do you mean? So?
Okay, I gotta say, I don't like to get into politics. I don't think comedians should choose sides. But I got this one joke. And it's true. I got this one friend. He is so DPP. How DPP?
How DPP is he?
He's so DPP that when I get in the MRT with him, he won't use the blue line.
Okay.
He's like, yeah.
So this, and that's one type of joke.
A so joke.
A so joke.
And that's probably the only time that I know of where the audience, outside of heckling or interacting, where the audience actually speaks back.
Well, they'll give you something back. So if a comedian goes up on stages, my wife, she's so annoying. You're supposed to reply,
how annoying is she?
Oh, okay.
But the comedian should emphasize, like, she is so, like, then that's a trigger. Like,
to get the feedback. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of this stuff, it seems like a lot of pressure. Like there's these rules for the audience to participate or to anticipate the jokes. Well, first of all, I think a lot of the comedy clubs, they have little signs, please do not speak when the performers are speaking. No heckling.
Well, you know,
let me tell our audience first what is heckling. Heckling is when you go to an event and there's that one rude person that's yelling something, usually negative about the person performing. And in comedy, at least in the Western world, it's common to have hecklers. You're saying a joke and someone will yell something, that's not funny, or shut up.
Well, yeah. Well, there's a thin line between a heckler and someone that wants to interact with you. And so you need to discern that. So sometimes they just want to play with you.
Yeah.
Other times they're just rude.
Trying to annoy you.
They're just a drunk, rude guy, that's manifesting some anger at his mom or something. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
But in Taiwan, I find the audiences are pretty easygoing here. They're pretty friendly. They come here to be entertained or have a good time.
Now, do they give you feedback? Because in my group classes, I get no feedback. Do they give you feedback?
Well, sometimes people, if you did well, they will hang around after the show and say, "Hey, I like that joke," or sometimes they'll say, "Well, I didn't like that particular joke, even though the audience liked it. It really bothered me."
They become offended.
They become triggered. Yeah.
Now, when doing humor in Taiwan, do you find a lot of people get offended by your jokes?
No, I don't do any. I'm older. I'm older than some of the other comedians. I'm in my 50s. I'm 52, and I grew up around watching comedians in the 70s and 80s, mostly like late 70s, early 80s, and it takes time and you mature, and I kind of stay away from the really gross shock jokes. There is a market for that, and there are people out there that love that. They want you to shock them, but I don't do that.
You don't do that?
No, I'm like I do adult comedy.
Yeah,
but I'm not into shock or gross, or I'm not trying to do that.
Are there any language barriers with telling jokes?
Yeah.
Or what kind of language barriers do you face when doing these jokes?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because it really depends on the level of the audience. So what I like to do now in the beginning is I've learned to just kind of test the audience. See how's your Chinese level, how's your English level. Anybody here 你都不会说英文，你觉得英文帮不呀？
Yeah, so you just double check, make sure, assess the level, and then you know how to phrase your jokes.
Yeah, and but also I like to use a little bit of Chinese sometimes when I'm telling a joke, like a little bit here or there. I also like to use the characters.
Yeah.
I like to use the characters to find humor in the characters.
Okay, all right. All right. Now, one of the troubles that I run into is, regardless of their language level, let's say their language level is very good, that they're practically fluent, or they can listen to us like on this show.
Yeah.
They're at this level, but there's some humor that they just won't get. And I'm specifically talking about irony and sarcasm. Can you tell our audience what is sarcasm?
Well, sarcasm is kind of like a nasty irony. That's what I feel like. It's kind of like, and it really depends on the person, and everyone has their own definition of sarcasm. Like we all, if you ask a million people what sarcasm is, and they all have a million different answers, really. So it really depends on their level. Some people use sarcasm often. I rarely use it. So it really depends on who you are and who's in the audience.
I'm a jerk. I use it all the time. So
really?
Yeah. Irony is basically when you're lying to someone. You're telling someone something, but you mean the opposite. And you say this to be funny or to emphasize something. So for an example of sarcasm would be my girlfriend, she's really skinny. So one of our teachers, every time he would see her, he would say, "Oh, hey, fatty." And fatty means a fat person, right?
Yeah.
So she didn't like him. She'd like, why does he always call me fat? I'm not fat. He's fat, right? But he's not calling her fat. He's actually highlighting that she's too skinny by saying fatty. So by saying the opposite. So here he's using sarcasm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that foreigners do for humor. And sometimes it goes way over Taiwanese people's heads.
Well, I think sarcasm, I don't see it used very much in stand-up, say. I think like in a sitcom, it works well. Or if you're engaging in some office banter around, or, with your coworkers, then I think sarcasm works, or with your friends for that matter.
Yeah.
But on stage as a stand-up comedian, very little. I mean, you could do a little bit here or there, I guess, but not something that you definitely want to rely on for a stand-up comedian.
Have you... has something like that ever happened to you where people use sarcasm? We use sarcasm when we're talking with friends or office banter or with people and they don't understand what we mean.
Yeah, there's this one guy I ever met, and I can't forget this. Well, Wang Puliao, he said he was waiting for his Taiwanese girlfriend. He was from England, and he waited and he waited. It's like she showed up like 25, almost half an hour late. She rushes in and she's all sweating and she's like, "I'm sorry I'm late. Are you angry?" And he goes, "No, I'm delighted." And she's like, "Oh, thank God, thank God."
Yes. And sometimes we run into, I guess sarcasm is very difficult in Taiwan because a lot of the people here are kind of gullible. They kind of take the words that we say as real and believe everything that we say. I was telling you earlier before how at the night markets, people ask me where I'm from. And I often tell them like, "Oh, I'm from Kaohsiung." And they're like, "No, really?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, my parents are from Pindong." "You're not a foreigner? Mix?" No, I'm Taiwanese. And like they think about it. They're like, they should not believe me because I obviously look very foreign. But they're like, "Oh, okay. So yeah, sometimes we have to have a sense, and that's something that I tell all my English learners out there to, start to pick up sarcasm. And then once you can pick up on the sarcasm, then all of a sudden your English can just grow much better because then now you're understanding the nuances of the language.
Yeah, learning to nuance the language is very important, very hard, yeah.
So going back to English jokes, what are some types of English jokes? You mentioned one earlier, the so jokes.
So we got knock knock.
Knock knocks, like I said earlier at the beginning, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's,
You mentioned dirty humor.
Yeah, shock, crass. I mean,
in Taiwan, they call it yellow jokes. I think
dirty jokes.
Yellow dirty jokes.
Well, some of my jokes are kind of yellow, but what I like to do is I like to say jokes and make you think of the word. Like I put the word in your mind. I don't want to say it, but I make you think it.
Yeah.
That
you lead us to the joke.
Yeah, no, you're thinking a dirty word when I'm doing some of my jokes, but I don't like to say it.
You don't like to say it?
No, I mean every now and then, like for example, a lot of comedians, and I do it too. We drop the F word. And there's a certain energy with that. Mm-hmm. But like Steve Martin, who actually was one of my other favorite comedians, is he talked about that. And he says you need to analyze: are you getting a laugh because of the F word, or are you getting a laugh because of the premise? It's a good premise.
That's true. A lot of the times I make jokes with the word llama in Chinese. Yeah. Do you know what to say it in Chinese? Don't say it. We can't say it on the air.
I don't know what it is.
A llama, the animal.
I know the animal. Big.
Yeah. But if you say the Chinese name, the tones are very similar to
a bad word.
A very bad word in Chinese.
So you
gotta write
that down.
Llama. So our Chinese audience, if they're thinking about llamas and they're saying it, they'll start laughing. Yeah. So that's an example of dirty humor.
Yeah.
How it works. One of my favorite types of jokes is 3 people walk into a bar.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So the premise of this joke is there's a bar and 3 people who are normally not friends walk into a bar together and something happens. Right?
Yeah.
You can say something like, I don't know, like a rabbi, a priest, and what would be the third
Rabbi,
one?
a priest, and a monk, maybe.
A monk walk into a bar. Yeah. And those 3 wouldn't be together, so you're expecting some funny situation to happen between those. Sometimes we have anecdotes as a type of humor. You tell an interesting or funny story, like the 2 stories that we just told about being late or girlfriend being skinny. You can tell anecdotes. Parodies are a type of humor.
Mm-hmm.
What's parody?
I don't know. Parody, like you're making fun of yourself. You're making a spoof. Is that you're making a spoof?
Yeah, spoofs. Yeah,
like a parody.
Yeah, parodies can happen.
Well, some jokes are like, what if, you know,
what
like,
ifs?
Hey, what if, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, like there was one joke I heard. This is not my joke. He says, what if instead of being born and growing old and dying, we went backwards?
Yeah.
And that way we end up as a smile on someone's face. I like that. Yeah. Like what if jokes. Yeah.
Yeah. What if jokes. Yeah. One thing that I like going back to dirty humor is I like roast.
Oh,
roast.
No, I'm not a fan of
You're
roast.
not a fan of roast?
No.
As I said, part of my humor is just making fun of people in a lighthearted way.
Well, I mean, I think what you're bordering on there is like banter, office banter, or banter amongst friends, and taking a pee. Can I say out of people?
Yeah. How should Taiwanese people react if someone is doing that to them? Like, because I'm worried, like, do they get offended or what happens in that situation?
Gosh, it really depends on the situation. Are you in Taiwan, or is this a Taiwanese person?
Let's say we're in Taiwan and we're in the office and people are joking around. Because sometimes this happens in our office. We'll see us teachers will be joking around and we'll be making fun of one teacher because he's fat. And,
that doesn't sound nice.
But like we're laughing, we're all joking about it, right? And then our Taiwanese staff will be like, why are you making fun of him being fat? And we're not really making fun of him being fat. We're kind of just joshing around, all of us.
Well, you know, one way that we talked about this before we went on the air. Like we talked about one of the ways that you get accepted into a social circle is that you take your lumps, and then people see that you can handle it. Like you don't be a big crybaby. You don't want to take your soccer ball and go home. Right.
So being included in the joke is, I guess, kind of like a initiation or like a welcoming to the group.
Could be like a hazing. If you're going to be one of us, we want to know that you're not going to be a big baby. Like you took a punch or whatever. If we go too far, then talk to us. So to answer your question, I think if they're going too far, I would say just laugh, ha ha ha, yeah, you got me. Mm-hmm. But then later go talk to that person in private. Say, hey man, like I thought that was kind of mean, you know.
Yeah, I was offended by that.
You went too far, okay?
Great expression. You went too far.
Yeah,
you went too far. Yeah, but it's funny because that line, like I often tell my students this about that line, right? You don't know where that line is until you cross it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So like we push it to that line, and you don't want to cross the line, but you have to get close to it so you know, okay, this is my comfort level.
Well, I mean, that's the dilemma of every comedian because a comedian more or less has a mandate to push people out of their comfort zone. If you don't push hard enough, they groan.
That's not funny, yeah.
And if you push too hard, like, oh, what a jerk that guy is.
They'll become offended.
Yeah. So you got to learn that you got to straddle that line of insanity and creativity, and like going too far and not far enough, and that takes a long, long time. I'm not there yet. I hope to get there one day, but.
Well, one thing about me is when I play sports, specifically basketball or soccer, those are my 2 sports. I'm a trash talker. So I'm actually a better trash talker than I am an athlete. But people hate playing against me because I will get into their heads and I'll be trash talking and they'll get very, very angry at me. But I just enjoy it. I'm having fun with it. But for me, it's like, lighthearted, like, oh, we're just ribbing, we're having fun. But then they start getting angry about it. So, one thing, if you notice, if you're ever playing basketball or you ever see in sports, people here are very quiet. because they don't want to be offended. If you get offended, say something. Right?
Well, can I just go back for a second? Because I just think Taiwanese people are in general rather quiet and conservative to begin with, and so I'll be honest with you, I don't particularly like it if there's a high percentage of Taiwanese in the audience. I love Taiwanese people, but sometimes they're very conservative. It's like everybody's read The Art of War, and so don't open your mouth; it will weaken you.
Yeah.
So they're very quiet, very conservative. But I can see that they're smiling and they're enjoying the show. But they're a little conservative about letting out a big belly laugh. I rarely see a Taiwanese person let go like a big belly laugh, just losing it.
So, for example, like if you say a joke, and if they laugh at the joke, they might be worried that other people are looking at them laughing at that joke and maybe make a judgment towards them,
or maybe they don't want to draw attention to themselves, or they don't want to make too much noise. I mean, I think there's a certain amount. I mean, and that happens a lot anyway with any with any nationality in the audience. For example, if you don't have a big crowd, at some point, as people fill in, at some point it goes, we got a crowd. But if it doesn't get to that, if we don't reach that critical mass of a crowd, then everyone gets self-conscious. Oh man, then you start seeing them cover their mouth up and everything,
crossing their arms. Oh
my God! And so I don't. As a comedian, I don't want that. I like to have a full crowd. But Taiwanese are definitely more conservative, more humble as well, I think.
So when it comes to humor, how can we get Asian audiences to open up to humor, to Western humor?
Well, I think go on Netflix. I think just type in comedy, comedy shows, stand-up comedy, watch comedy, go online, watch comedy. And, if you feel that, maybe you're too serious, maybe you grew up in a household where everyone was serious, very conservative, very humble. Perhaps other than watching comedy, maybe you just learn to laugh at yourself. And also come to my show.
We call that self-depreciating humor.
Yeah.
You're learning to laugh at yourself.
I think that's a paramount. If you can't laugh at yourself, like someone like Donald Trump can't laugh at himself.
Then you've hit a wall right there.
You learn to laugh at yourself. You fall down, just laugh at yourself.
You mentioned Netflix, and I agree that's a great resource here in Taiwan because actually Netflix has Chinese subtitles. So sometimes when I'm watching some stand-up comedy special or some comedian special, I turn on the subtitles in Chinese so people around me can watch, and then they can automatically translate that. And occasionally I have to pause to explain what the joke is. And I think that's also okay when people are saying jokes and everyone's laughing and you don't get it. Safe thing to do is just laugh. But another thing to do, it's okay to ask, why was that funny? They can explain it to you. And then sometimes the joke is no longer funny if you have to explain it. But sometimes you don't feel shy if you want to be in, understand what the joke is. And it works even better after you understand it, if you can jump in. Something that happened is we took a road trip in the office and we were watching The Office. And we were watching an episode where the boss in the office gets roasted and people are just making fun of him and he gets offended. And then he came back to the office and started saying mean things about everyone, and everyone started laughing and it was okay, right? But in the thing, he kept saying this thing, boom, roasted. And he'd say something mean about someone would say something dumb, and then I started telling them, oh, boom, roasted, boom, roasted. And like all the foreign teachers started yelling at each other just randomly throughout the vacation, boom, roasted. And it didn't get really funny until one of our teachers said something stupid, and one of our staff was like, boom, roasted. And then everyone started laughing because she got the joke. She understood why it was funny. So it's about, if she asked, wait, why are you guys laughing at this? Why is this funny? She would never be able to participate in the joke. So, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, and also, one thing we haven't talked about yet is timing. And I wasn't there, but it sounds like her timing was right on as well. Yeah.
Timing, obviously, very important for humor. But understanding the joke and saying the right time for the joke. Yeah.
I agree with you. You said that. So just to recap what you said. So if you don't understand the joke, of course, ask, find out. That's not a problem, not whatsoever. Yeah. Just don't do that at my show. Just laugh. Come up to me after the show. I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, after the show, not during the show. After the show. Okay. So you're a stand-up comic. What are some famous comedians or routines out there that our audience can search for online?
Well, one of the oldest, my oldest memory of comedy was Abbott and Costello, Who's on First. Gosh.
Oh, any English learner has to search up Who's on First.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so funny. You
will love it, yeah. If you're talking about current comedians right now, I would say number one on top of my list would be Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. Okay.
He's got a Netflix special.
He is, but some people are upset about him because one thing Dave Chappelle is doing right now is he's pushing people's buttons. So he's kind of saying some things that are offending people, maybe a little bit too much. Maybe he's crossing the line, but that's his style and that's his type of humor.
Well, perhaps if you're just starting out in listening to comedy, maybe that's not a good place to start. Just go on YouTube, look at some of his older stuff.
Yeah. And
another name that you can, since you're on YouTube, he's since passed, rest in peace, Mitch Hedberg.
I love him.
Isn't he awesome?
Yes, he's very funny. He says, I have one of these jokes right here that I want to tell our audience over there. Maybe they'll get this. My belt. He's funny because he tells jokes in one line. So he doesn't do a beginning, middle, end. He doesn't have this complicated narrative for his jokes. He just says it in one line very, very quickly. He says, my belt holds my pants up, but my belt loops hold my belt up. I don't know what's happening down there. Who is the real hero?
Right? I remember that one.
So he says a lot of this observational humor.
Observational.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's if you're seriously interested in doing comedy or trying it, like carry a little book around or get out your iPhone and write down anything that you think of that's funny, or you say something, somebody laugh, write it down. Just start recording all this stuff and all these little funny observations.
I got another Mitch Hedberg joke that I translated into Taiwan, into Chinese English, right? When someone hands you a DM, it's like they're saying to you, here, throw this away. Right?
They say DM, I didn't know that.
The DM,
flyer, right?
Yeah.
Flyer.
Flyers are called DMs.
I didn't know that.
In Taiwan.
I have to write that down.
DMs. Yeah. Okay.
And also the one person I'd like to add to that list is Conan OBrien. Because he's a talk show. He's a late night talk show guy.
Yeah.
And I grew up around years ago with Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson for me was the king of kings of late night comedy.
Yeah.
And I think for me, and I think a lot of other comedians, a lot of other people, Conan OBrien is probably their number one choice.
And one thing that I love about Conan OBrien is he's very funny and sort of like slapstick. He kind of makes fun of himself, and he's
very good. He's very goofy.
He's very goofy. He's easy to enjoy. Even if you don't know why he's being funny, you're laughing because you know something's funny. And one thing that I notice here in Taiwan, because sometimes when I go on TV shows in Taiwan, is they rely too much on the noises. Yeah, it's like, hey, this is funny. You need to laugh now, right? So do you know how they do that on the TV shows?
No.
It's so awkward. So basically, they shoot live, right?
Yeah.
And post-production is expensive. So they don't want to do any post-production. So there's actually a guy sitting back there with a keyboard with all the notes on the keyboard, all the funny sounds. As people are talking, he's pushing the buttons. So it's done live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, here, this is supposed to be funny. Dong, 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 bing, bong.
Boing. Yeah. I can't stand that.
Yeah. So Conan is, he signals the joke himself. We're part of that. And one thing that everyone out there, you should definitely YouTube Conan, is he has this thing of Conan Without Borders right now, where he travels to different countries. And it's great because he's mixing in the culture with the humor.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because he's doing some stuff that's like funny for Americans, but not funny for Koreans. And the Koreans are kind of just looking at him like, who is this guy? And what is he doing? Oh. So he's mixing the culture in there with the humor. So that's great. And it's also on Netflix with Chinese subtitles. So I recommend our audience to look at that. Yeah. So final question. How should you respond to English jokes?
Well, I think that depends on you. That depends on you as a person. Like, if the joke is, look, the joke should be spontaneous. The laughter should be spontaneous.
It should be real.
It should be real. You're laughing because I can't control it. You know, you just can't control yourself. Something happened. You know, if someone slips on a banana peel and they don't get hurt, you find it funny, you know, and I can't, what am I supposed to do? I can't control it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you didn't understand the joke, I mean, maybe go up to the person afterwards and talk to them about it.
Or ask someone to explain it.
Yeah, someone to explain it. But a laugh should be involuntary.
Yes.
It should be as natural as breathing or your heart pumping.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
It shouldn't be like when your boss makes a joke and you laugh, ha, 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 because he's your boss. It shouldn't be that way, right?
Yeah. We should be interviewing some of your underlings.
See if they... I'm not really funny. is that what you're trying to tell?
No.
I'm not really funny. I'm just their boss, so that's why they laugh.
No, I wasn't implying
Did
that.
you notice the cup?
I am the boss, yeah.
So when I hold this up, you must laugh. That's the humor. Definitely, I would say I love using this word. It's called genuine. Your laugh should be genuine.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be laughing just to laugh. You can kind of fake it half the time. Just if everyone's laughed, just ha 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 laugh, and then later on ask us why it was funny. But one thing that you mentioned to me earlier was that you shouldn't laugh just to laugh, because it kind of takes those moments of not laughing to make the other moments of laughter funnier. Because if you're laughing at every joke, none of the jokes are funny, right?
Yeah, it's hard to appreciate. Like I have been at open mics where there were some. I think most of the people that I've met going on stage have got a funny joke here or there. But if you've got like too much support, let's say, in the audience, and they're just laughing, and you know, and there have been shows like that in Taiwan that where the people are at the back, like cheerleaders at the back, and it just kind of takes away from the appreciation of the art, man. I mean, just better to just fail. You know, there's every comedian, you need to fail. And that's hard for Taiwanese because Taiwanese don't like to lose face, right? Yeah. But you gotta fail and fail badly. You gotta.
I think when I was in high school, I went to one comedian was touring, and this was an eye-opening experience for me because there was a comedian, he was touring, and I went to see his show, and it was funny. And then he had an HBO special. Oh. And it was John Leguizamo. I went to see John Leguizamo. Back in Boston, like a long time ago. And he had an HBO comedy special. And I kind of got upset because the HBO comedy special was exactly pretty much what he said on the road. So I'm like, wait, I paid money to see the comedy special? So I was kind of like, but what that taught me was that they're actually practicing their jokes. So when they do the comedy special, every joke will be funny, right?
I mean, it's very rare that I write a joke and I get up on stage and I tell it and it's perfect.
Yeah.
Not even. I would say less than 5% of the time that happens. You have to tinker with it. You have to play with it and try this movement, manifest a little more of this attitude or whatever. Oh, yeah, it's a process. It's a long process, and you better have tough skin. You guys know tough skin?
What does tough skin mean?
Tough skin, like you're not easily offended. You know, you gotta take a punch.
Yeah, you have to not get offended, not take it personally, and just think, oh, okay, you failed. That's okay. I'll get up and I'll tweak this joke next time. Right? And that's something I think our audience can learn about their daily life. It's okay to have failures because the only way you're going to improve and get better is by making mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, Kurt, thank you so much for your time. Now, if our audience wants to know more about you and more about your humor, what can we do?
Well, you can go on Facebook. I have 2 Facebook pages. One's called Open Mic Taipei. And we have open mic for all genres of art. I work with magicians, musicians, other comedians, acrobats, any form of art. If it's on stage and it's entertaining, let's do a show together.
So it's like a venue. People get together and perform whatever they want to perform, and people go and watch.
And I have another page. I use my Chinese name. My Chinese name is Sanba Di. Sanba something. Sanba Di Di. Samba Di. And I do cartoons. My cartoons are there. Excellent.
But
I want to tell you, there is a nice open mic that's happening in Taipei once a month, and it's at the local craft beer house.
Yeah.
It's at 375 Hoping East Road, Section 2, number 2, and it's they have an open mic for comedy. The next show is at September 19th.
Okay. So
9:30 p.m. Yeah.
9:30 p.m. So they do it every once a month.
I think it's about once a month. I've gone a couple of times. I think it's a nice vibe. It's nice people there. The bartenders were all very friendly. The staff were very friendly there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to be there September 19th. So.
Sure. So let's check it out. FB Open Mic Taipei and Open Mic Comedy Night at the local craft beer house. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.